Thank you all for gathering today to think about the history of the dance presenting series. We are celebrating the 45th anniversary of the dance presenting series. It's easy for that to kind of overlap with the dance center. So we're not going to censor too much if things come up. We're not going to block them.
Okay. Can we also just talk and know that some of the stuff will not necessarily be included in the footage?
I think it's all going to be recorded, but we won't publicize. We're not going to put an unedited 2-hour.
Just ask.
Yeah, good question. It's a good question to ask.
I think mostly it'll be safely buried in an
Okay.
Smiling, not politely. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that allay any concerns?
Sure.
Okay. So, as somebody new to this community and to this place, I would love to start off by just hearing about some memorable performances that you've seen as part of the dance presenting series. Memorable positively or negatively?
Very few negatives. Not every new work that got presented here was as great as we might have hoped it would be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's okay. Many of them way exceeded my expectations. And I think that's probably just to be taken in stride. Memorable ones, for me personally, when the Holy Body Tattoo put Our Brief Eternity out here on this stage, I think that was maybe in
Before
2002, maybe.
Yeah.
Blew me away.
I don't remember it.
Oh, it was grueling.
Yeah.
Remember Noam and Dana,
The
and they
name
had
is
a
familiar.
third dancer. It was just 65 minutes of intensity.
Were they in a very specific, like, white
Yes.
box? I remember people talking about that, like, for weeks after, and it was a show I missed, too. And
Yeah.
I was like, ah!
No, they were fully contained. They're down on the ground doing this. And I mean, it was just, and then they walk off the stage and they are just exhausted
Mm-hmm.
for the next 3 hours
Mm-hmm.
because it was that demanding.
Yeah.
That stands up as a high point for me. There's so many other ones.
Can I back up and ask, was there an explicit commitment to new work, to presenting new work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the dance center in those years was about contemporaneity and presenting new work. Not necessarily always a premiere, but definitely new work. It was not archival.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else chime in.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know.
I'm thinking. I got lots of bits and pieces. The one with the arrows. I can't remember who that.
Yin Mei.
Oh, that was Yin May. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yin Mei.
Came in with 1,000 homemade, handmade arrows, and they were all over the stage. And I remember at the end of one performance, a woman came down from the audience and took one.
Oh, wow.
And I went up to her and said, "That's not yours." Sorry, I just wanted to see it. So, yeah, thank you. So,
Oh,
yeah.
I took a lot of stuff off this stage. Little piles of sand from Sankai Juku.
Oh, yeah.
You know, bits of rice from Song of the Wanderers.
Mm.
Some of Reggie Wilson's coiled up tinsel.
Oh, yeah.
I've got it all.
Yeah.
Bust me.
Yeah. I don't want it back. God, yeah, and then Kusal Ja was one.
Oh,
That was a fun one. because we called it Best Buy over the stage because there were
crazy.
how many screens we had to hang.
So
and,
many screens.
yeah, just running video from the front of the house and on DVDs. So it was all really real DIY,
Yeah,
and she did really well.
I think that was part of a 3-program
Yep.
piece,
Mhm.
a 3-program set called Science, Technology, and Dance, or something like
Something like that, yeah.
that. And we also brought in Troika
Yeah,
with all of their
yeah,
not histrionics, with all of their shenanigans.
Yeah.
With
it
all of
was
their
a set.
with
I mean,
all of their
yeah.
brilliant tech work.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they had a steel set that was sat in 3 panels that turned and opened
Yeah,
that had to move every night for
Yeah.
class. Yeah,
yeah. Everything had to move every night.
Yeah.
That was one of the interesting challenges
Yeah.
for you, Kevin.
yeah, still is. Yeah,
Yeah.
But Troika helped me remind me of the guy who invented
Mark
Isadora.
Caniglio.
Yeah, I mean, he brought this software in here that could control everything.
Mhm.
I mean, like 8 different video projections, all of these screens, the lighting, the sound, just like this.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Isadora.
yeah,
And he
brilliant.
invented it.
yeah.
And then he got to work with some of our students to try to
Mhm.
tell them what
Mhm.
Isadora was about.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was someone else in there. Was it the Randoms?
Oh yeah, with the giant claw arm thing, there was something. No, it was a panel. Was it the aluminum panel, full stage width? They had 2 for the side stages, but they didn't fit. Was that the same one? Was
That might have
the
been
same-
Australian Dance Theater.
No, that's a different one. That was with the aluminum upstage. I remember that one too. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was a fun time.
That was, yeah, yeah.
Well, one of the things I loved was just how this space could get transformed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Whether it was with Margie Jenkins when she
Mhm.
was working with
That's
those
what I was
Indian
going to say.
dancers.
That was a really transformative piece, I thought, for the space and
Hmm.
just
Mhm.
the level of the dancing was just so memorable to me. Yeah.
Mhm.
Talk about that, Kevin. What did that mean for you?
We spent the summer building a raised platform over the lip of the stage, so
Huh.
basically this high, but ramped on both sides so we would be ADA accessible, both in and out in case we had to. And then we ended up putting platforms over all 3 sections of the audience, and we put risers on the stage, and they had red marley.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we basically created a theater in the round in the space.
It was amazing.
But there were bridges.
Yeah, yeah.
Were there?
Oh, yes. There were these bridges between the different platforms at different levels.
Kevin has
Probably.
blocked it out.
Don't tell me you've suppressed that.
Sure. No, you're probably right. Oh yeah, because they were really tall on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Oh god, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Wow. Good memory.
Well,
Yeah. That was a trip.
it's etched.
Yeah.
And
What year do you think that was?
with Margie,
2007 or 8, maybe?
2012.
No, really?
Really?
God, I've been here
No.
longer
All right.
than I think.
All right, not. You tell me.
Maybe you might be right.
I think that was the last time Margie was in here, possibly.
Possibly.
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets blurry.
It sure does. Yeah.
But all I can say is, Kevin, I mean, you did so much
Thank you.
Still does.
to transform
Yeah.
this space, to deal with all kinds of different things that were thrown at you any week, any other week. I can't believe it.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. It's fun. I mean, it's crazy to figure, I was thinking about that the other day. It's like with Eduardo and Luna Negra
Mhm.
making it rain and not killing anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
We had rain here a couple
Couple
times.
times. Yeah. But then who was it? Was it Noism?
Noism. Yeah. Joe Kanamori.
Yeah.
Oh,
They
that was a good one.
they danced the hell out of that one.
Oh,
It
and yeah,
was-
and then when you figured out how to make the back come up and the lights, I mean, yeah, Joe
Yeah.
Kanamori,
Okay. Because
Japan.
Japan. Because I remember the students being out in the lobby the next morning trying some of the moves.
Hmm.
I was like, how? And they were seriously difficult,
Hmm.
back hinges, and it's like, how'd they do that? Let's and
Hmm.
yeah, that was interesting.
That was always one of the satisfying things for me was to, at the student concerts at the end of the semester, see little glimpses
Hmm.
of something that they had been exposed to
Yeah.
earlier in that semester or a
Mhm.
year ago
Sure,
or
sure.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's not that it was derivative or ripping anything off,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just like influence.
Yeah.
And I was like going,
Mm-hmm.
there's a little bit of Kanamori in there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's a little Petronio.
Mm-hmm.
What a great opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's what this is about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I really remember the Emily Johnson piece
Mm.
where Kevin performed. He like learned this really long dance.
Yeah.
Like it was not a short thing. It was like a lot of moves. And
Yeah.
Kevin nailed it. It was awesome. And he was totally stealth about it. He didn't tell anybody
No.
what
No.
was happening.
I was too freaked out.
We had no idea.
Kevin's a mellow guy.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
tremendous. Emily had this sort of performance installation. We could only have 40 people in here
Right.
at a time. So the seating was pretty much closed off. She had a little station over here with a couple musicians, and then it sort of moved around. There were signs all over the place that Kevin made. Wasn't there something like Kevin was here?
No, I think it was Kevin made the screen.
Yeah.
Emily put up. It's like, thank you. Okay.
And then you had your little solo.
And I had my little solo.
It was actually not such a little
It wasn't
solo.
little.
No,
It
no,
was
no.
awesome.
Do you remember it? Do you
Oh,
want to do it right now?
I know I can't. I don't remember it. I'd have to look at the video, which I'd like to do. But what I remember is we were all set up and rehearsing part of it. And I have this terrible habit of after we get done teching and setting everything up, I sit down and watch a rehearsal and tend to fall asleep. And so Heidi, the stage manager, said, "Hey, do you want to be in the piece?" And I went, "Huh? Sure." So, what I've learned is never to say yes after just waking up from a nap.
Oh,
But-
but you nailed it.
It was fun. I mean, I went to the next morning, I met Emily in the studio, in the yoga studio, and she taught me the piece and we worked on it together. And it's like, and then she turned to me and said, "Okay, and now you do it as a solo." Okay. So, yeah, that was, and the next morning I cleared my basement out and I crammed for a couple of hours.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Cram equals rehearse.
Rehearse, yeah, with the video going. Oh, okay. Oh, this hurts my knee. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Didn't we have to strap a fish on her arm too?
That was in the promo. I don't think that was actually part of the piece.
She didn't have a fish?
No, that
But
was in the.
You did fry a fish.
I didn't fry it, but 33 feigning spells
Yeah.
fried a fish.
That was
on stage.
interesting.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Art.
Yes, and had we had cell phones with cameras on them at the time, because this was 2002, I think. Again, somewhere around there.
Fainting spells? They
Fainting
were early.
spells. They were early.
Yeah.
And there was a fish laying on the ground against the wall, and okay, and we cleaned it up afterwards. But
You fried that fish.
yeah, we. It's strange. What haven't we done here?
Not much.
No.
Jill and Pete, I wonder if, as makers and choreographers, if there were things that you saw that you felt like influenced you or resonated in your own work.
You mentioned Australian Dance Theatre, and that was a show that really stands out for me. I really loved it.
Swan
And,
Lake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was their version of Swan Lake, and I don't know if you've seen Australian Dance Theatre. So they kind of took Swan Lake and like remixed it into this bizarre ballet, breakdancing, tai chi, opera.
Yoga.
Yeah, they and after the show, somehow Matthew House and I ended up going out with those dancers.
Oh, really?
too, and they were pretty wild. So like, it was great to get to know them a little better after seeing them on stage, and like because they were like doing some really intense physical stunts and things with their bodies, and they couldn't have been like more nice and relaxed too. But that was a really fun show.
And a little bit crazy.
And a little bit
Yeah.
crazy. I don't know how technically you did all that stuff. Like it was wild.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of aluminum and squeezing.
And I don't know that I could say like, oh, that influenced my work, but it definitely made sort of, I guess, got me thinking about different ways to take a form and like kind of break it down, or take a classical piece of music. Like the piece opens with the dancer listening to Swan Lake on the record, and she just like scratches it right there and like throws it. So it was just a different way to think about dance. But I could never be like, oh, my work embodies like no. But, it was fun to. That's a memory that still is strong for me.
It's about influence. And you don't really know what that is.
Yeah.
Always. It's not always a direct here to here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I've always been interested in David Rousseff's work. And, it's been presented here so many times. I was really, the times that Germaine O'Coney's company came, just mesmerized. I don't know that shows up in my work at all, but I just love the kind of aesthetic world they're living in, and yeah, that Margaret Jenkins piece. Like there was something about and Kevin, close your ears, cover your ears. Like it was like the work that we did around the space actually felt really incidental to me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In relationship to actually some of the quality of the dancing. Like I've never left a piece being like the quality of the dancing taught me something about choreography. Like I always pride myself on separating those things, right? Like, as a choreographer, it's my job to be analytical and separate these things. But that one, I was like, they're actually completely fused in a way that I rarely see.
I think that was, what was it called? Slipping Glimpse. Something like that.
That might be right, yeah.
And there was a little prologue over on the park.
That's right.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
Outdoors.
Yeah.
And everyone came over here.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
I always like when Joe Good comes to town.
Oh, yeah.
We've been fortunate enough to have him roll through, and when they come in, I feel like they always, like there's some companies that come in and they're very much like they do their thing, and then they're in the dressing room and they're very like doing whatever they do. But I feel like the Joe Good and family, they're always just like, oh, hey, good to be back. And like Grandpa Joe walks around and says hi. Like, and I don't know if you guys remember the piece Mythic Montana.
Yes.
That I love that
Love that
work,
piece.
and there was a community cast involved too.
Yeah.
So there were some
Yep.
faculty and some students, and then just remember I actually went to San Francisco that summer, and then so many people from Chicago went to his workshop. So it was kind of weird because you're in San
Right.
Francisco, but you knew everybody there because they were from Chicago. But that was a really, really wonderful work, and satisfying, and it's great when the company works with like the community cast. We don't have those opportunities a lot, so it's really special when we do, and I still think about that piece. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, I feel like Joe Good is a friend.
Mhm.
Yeah.
you know, not just within these walls, but elsewhere. If I go to San Francisco, I find him and he makes time for me. If he comes here, we have dinner together,
Mhm.
draw animal cards, and you know, just. And there are a lot of people like that.
Mhm.
You know, there are a lot of artists, choreographers, dancers who have come through this place, and I feel like they're my friends.
Mhm.
Joe, Robert Moses, the Holy Bodies, just so many of them. Lin Wai Min.
Yeah.
And if I happen to be in their city or country, I drop them a note, and maybe they can't host me, but it's like, well, we're absolutely getting together.
Mhm.
That's a nice thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was the last Cloudgate piece at the Harris. I just thought that was the most sophisticated use of projections I think I've ever seen. That was really astounding to me.
Mhm.
Was it Mythic Montana that somebody was telling me about, like a person who would set up a room for events that corresponded to the.
That was
Ah,
Shannon.
Shannon.
That was Shannon.
Now
Shannon-
Dr. Eplet.
That-
Shannon Eplet, now Dr. Eplet. He's gotten his PhD in theater
history.
study or
Yeah.
something. Shannon was our operations person for a number of years,
Mhm.
but he also loved making great after show parties.
Mhm.
And one of those was certainly with Mythic. I mean,
Yeah.
he set up this whole thing about the size of this with a small town in
Mhm.
Montana, and you know,
Oh yeah.
He used to go
and
nuts.
other ones.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Fabric all over the place and
With
Was it
Shadow's
in the yoga
Child.
studio?
Shadow's
In-
Child.
yeah.
A
Yeah, in the
piece,
yoga
a
studio.
piece we co-commissioned from Urban Bush.
Yeah. Mhm.
Some time ago.
Yeah.
And it was in the summer.
Mm,
And he
mhm.
turned it into a whole summer picnic. This was with giant puppets. It was sort of oriented towards, a younger, more family audience.
Mhm.
Just huge puppets coming through, big crocodiles and things like that.
Yeah.
And for some reason, Shannon decided he wanted to make it into a summer picnic. And so we go into the studio afterwards, and
Yeah.
everyone's like, woo,
Yeah.
great. And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Here's
Yeah.
fried chicken,
Mhm.
and ears
Yeah.
of corn.
Oh, yeah.
And
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was amazing.
sometimes when I'm in conversations like this, when I talk to friends or family who have just returned from trips or someplace else, I ask them what was the funniest and the scariest thing that happened. Just as a way to
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
A great
generate
question.
some conversation. Pete? Funniest and scariest.
Funniest and scariest.
And we're going to go right down the line.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
You're going to get into it too, because you're here now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I feel a fair amount of fear in many life performance situations. Like, I just feel like, oh, what could possibly, like, what's, but I don't know that I can think of.
All right, you think on that.
Yeah, I'll think on that. I don't know.
Oh man, pressure's on now. God, the funniest and scariest. The scariest is easily the first time we went over to Harris, dealing with, and that was Cunningham.
Yeah.
That was right after they opened,
That's
right
right.
after the Harris Theater opened.
Yeah,
we were the first.
we basically opened that.
Right.
They had a gala or something.
Yes, they had the
but
gala.
we were the first public performance
Yeah.
with the Cunninghams.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
yeah.
the scariest when you're ready.
Okay. And the funniest was for that show. So this both funniest and scariest. Dealing with a union crew for the first time, dealing with an enormous show, dealing with a company the size with the prestige of the Cunningham Company, and trying to and me being stuck in the middle between the theater and the company, trying to get everybody to talk, and then so that's terrifying. I'm much better at it now. But then the funniest part was, and I'm going to paraphrase this wrongly. Now I remember. I made all these suggestions for the Cunningham light plot to work with the Harris light plot. And Will Knapp, their production manager, replied to me on the email saying, well, we don't have to do that because we're a big and important company. And everybody, including Will, realized how pompous that was. And so that was the funniest. And it has come up in the past or again when he's come through. So that was pretty funny, and it worked out. Everything worked out well, and we developed a strategy for working over there. But that was pretty funny. Yeah.
My scary moment is being in the audience at the Harris at Cloudgate when a CD skips.
Oh God.
Yes.
The worst.
Oh,
I was like, this
yes.
isn't happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a tough one. Yeah.
Yeah. That hurt.
That's nothing. Hold on. Ellen, for you.
Scariest is definitely related to Cloudgate and the Harris for me. Just like the sheer number of seats and the number of people who are asking about numbers of seats sold every day for a long time.
Right.
That was definitely keeping me up awake at night for a couple months. Very scary. Funniest, I don't think that this wasn't particularly funny, but really satisfying for me was B.B. Miller this past season. That was like, that felt like, yeah, like this is what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
This is work that I'm excited about. And we did a conversation with Molly Shanahan and B.B. Miller that was really fun. Like people just, they submitted a word that was in their mind, and then we put the words in a Tupperware and pulled out one word at a time, and then just let BB and Molly go, and it was great.
Yeah, BB's tremendous, and she's another artist that's been in and out of here repeatedly, and that's so important.
Yeah.
To build those relationships and provide a venue.
And I think it's important and commendable if you look at the history of this place, the number of female choreographers who have been supported, the number of people of color, choreographers of color who have been supported throughout the 45-year history. I don't know that there's that many institutions that have had that same commitment.
Well, who started it?
Yeah.
Shirley.
Yeah.
Scary, funny.
Oh, but you didn't go.
I'm waiting.
Oh, wow. Well, like,
Your idea, you get to choose what you do. Yeah.
I feel like I've experienced fear on a number of levels. Some of these things I will not reveal on camera. But when you said scariest moment, I wasn't thinking like there's the administration scary, like programs aren't delivered, so I have to go down to the 600 and bring them back. But like my mind went to like scariest sort of performative moment, and this one's more recent. But there's a performer named Kolak, who he was in Jean B, and then he was in Nora Chabalar's work, and like Kolak is not a scary person. Like if you talk to him, he is so sweet and so funny. But when he was performing Nora's work, there was a moment when he embodied this really intense, primitive character, and if you're, I'm sitting in the audience and he's not that far away, and just the intensity and the physicality of this moment, and it was like you could feel this like I just was kind of blown away by the way he was performing. I could feel this, and like
Right.
knowing that like I'd met him in the dressing room and he was just like, oh, super nice. And it was I was just sort of blown away the way he sort of transformed into this really. For me, that was like a scary character,
Yeah.
but that's just a testament to the way, like a strong performer. And I love seeing work in this space because you are at such a close proximity. Sometimes you can like almost taste it or feel it, or maybe there's even sweat on your face, which maybe is not appealing to some people, but for some of us, it's a thrill. So that's where my moment went to. I was thinking of things I've seen that I thought were really gave me fear in my reaction, but in the right way. And for funny, I feel like the funny things I remember are things that happened off stage more. So like when in my last few years working here, I've been working with the presenting series. So I don't necessarily get to, I feel like my interactions with the artists are minimal and very administrative, which is fine. That's my role. And so I don't really get to chill and hang out, and that's cool. I feel like my job is to get out of the way, and I like that. You try to do your work and get out of the way, and hopefully if things go well, you're not necessarily engaging with the artist, which it'd be nice to hang out. But after the last B.B. Miller performance, I walk into the yoga room and B.B. Miller goes, "Are you Jill Fahrenkamp?" I was like, "Yes." And then she just remembered my name from the itinerary I gave her and was just giving me kudos for that and all the great snacks that I'd bought. It was such a silly thing, but it made me laugh so hard. She was like, "Are you Jill Fahrenkamp?" And I think I even said, "Aren't you B.B. Miller?" And they just like had a little shimmy and were laughing. So that was a really fun moment to me.
Cool.
But I think that's indicative too of how the team works here.
Yeah.
You're putting together itineraries. Mary Reckner did for years. And companies appreciate that. They don't always get that when they're on the road.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think that we were so well prepared, and I'm sure you continue to be. So it just is comforting and easy for touring companies from the US, from wherever, to come in here and feel welcome, to feel like they've got you or Mary or whoever else to hold their hand, to get them in and out of here. How many snowstorms did we have?
A few. We
Remember-
only closed once
With Joe?
with Joe. Yeah. But
Then we had to get a company out of here.
then they were from Vietnam.
Together higher.
Together higher, yes. And
Oh boy.
yeah, and they had never seen snow before and they didn't want to leave.
Oh my God.
And they were going to on the boards, I think.
Oh, wow.
Or they were going out to Portland or Seattle,
Yeah.
and they couldn't get out.
Right.
Mind you, this was a company of dancers from Vietnam who spoke very little English,
Right.
and most of them were deaf.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
That's
So that was fun,
right.
trying to explain to them how they're not going to get on the plane this
Right.
morning, but we'll try to help you with that.
Yeah.
And then they're going like, snow!
Yeah.
Let's go play.
And they were out in Grant Park playing in the snow. Yeah. And they had never prepped a tour before. And so I was feeding information to everybody else down the line as we learned things. So, this is their light plot. This is their set, which we had to have flame proofed. And and then it wouldn't fit back in the tubes because it had solidified a little bit from the flame proofing.
Oh, wow.
It was rice paper.
Wow.
And they were rice paper panels, floor to ceiling. And then we had to ship them out, and they didn't make it to the next venue.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was a thing. Yeah.
But so often, Kevin, you would step in,
Yeah.
and on one of these tours, if we were the initial site,
Mhm.
even if it wasn't necessarily a premiere, a lot of these companies weren't used to touring.
Right. Yeah.
And you were so great. You still are. I don't want to speak in the past tense.
You are so
You are
generous.
But you're so great at just stepping up and saying, oh, so you're going off to Seattle or Philly or LA or New York, and you don't really have your
Shit together.
stuff. Let me help you.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
there's no value on that.
Oh, thank you. I mean, my whole kind of philosophy, for putting these shows together is, these artists spend a lot of time in the studio, and having created shows of my own, that time in the studio is hard fought and precious, and you come up with an ideal. This is the piece I want to create and take around. I, as myself, that's a weird thing to say, think that we should give them as close to their ideal as humanly possible, and figure out different ways to do that. I remember a few years ago, Stephen Petronio was in and wanted to make this entrance from up left, up right, and he wanted to crawl in, and I found a picture of it on my phone not too long ago, and I rigged a ladder, or extension ladder, to drop down.
And there was a big net.
Was there? Maybe. I don't remember the net.
Maybe.
But I remember the ladder and Stephen crawling down this ladder, and then I would pull a rope and the ladder would go away. And because he wanted to make an entrance.
You were so good at rigging stuff. I mean, in this beautiful, beautiful black box. But there ain't no fly law.
No.
If something needs to disappear, Kevin Reckner will figure out how to make it disappear.
Give me 2 weeks and come see Terry O'Connor and you'll see something new.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, all right, you're funniest and scariest.
Funny, scary.
Well, funniest might have already been referred to when I had to walk up to Kevin's office. Say, Kevin, the 33 fainting spells want to fry a fish. And we laughed.
Yeah.
And I said, do you think you can do that? It's like, yeah, why not? Just give me the fish.
Yeah.
Scariest was actually not anything that happened on the stage. It was one day pretty early when we got down here. Actually, this is quite scary. There was a shooter on the roof.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
There was a sniper
Mm-hmm.
right across the alley.
Yeah.
And the South Loop was a very different place right
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right now.
He's actually a bank robber.
Something.
Yeah.
But he had
Yeah.
a gun and he was shooting it.
Yeah.
And it was ricocheting off that
Mhm.
door right there.
Mm-hmm.
We're all sitting around doing our work.
We were loading in for the Indian festival.
That's right.
Yeah.
Chandra Leka.
Yeah. Natya and
Someone else.
someone else. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's like we're hearing, Kevin, I think you were in here. Bing, bing.
Ding.
So you put
Yeah.
your head out there.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, it's still on your shoulders.
Yep.
And it's like, holy
Yep.
Moses. And the next thing
Yeah.
we know, in comes a SWAT team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I'm serious. Maybe you had prescient knowledge and decided to leave early that
Must
day.
have.
Yeah.
But the next thing you know, the SWAT team is coming in here with
They were all armed to the teeth.
automatic weapons,
Mhm.
all these big jackets
Mhm.
on, their helmets.
Mhm.
They had us huddling
In the line.
right down in front of the guard desk.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a scary moment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then that young kid who was on your crew, Bob, started like making jokes.
Yeah. No, it was Steven Arnold. Yeah. Jacob. Yeah. And yeah. He was like,
He's like,
hey,
"Oh,
nice
have you ever
gun."
shot one of those guns?"
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, I mean, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a little crazy.
That was a little crazy.
But you know,
Yeah.
it's life in the city.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then, I mean, other scary moments, I guess. You know, we were over at the MCA with Margaret Jenkins again, and we had the Paul Drescher Ensemble at the front of the stage.
Yep.
And we're sitting there before the rehearsal, and I'm in the house, not asleep, and I hear glug, 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 glug. I'm like, what? That's weird. And I step up and look in the pit, and there's a drain in the pit, and there's water coming into the pit from the drain.
Oh my gosh.
And I turned to the tech director and said, "Hey, Rich, there's water coming in the pit." And, you know, Paul Drescher is an electronic ensemble. So there's all these wires, everything. And we feverishly just grabbed everything, dancers, anybody. And we spent the next 4 or 5 hours with hair dryers, one of which I think I still have upstairs, drying out electronics before we plugged things in. And it was bad.
Oh, God.
It was bad. And then when we opened this building,
Oh,
we bought the Marley. I mean, the whole move was,
wow.
yeah, the big move was traumatic.
But it was epic, and we did it so well.
Yeah. But then, you know, I was on vacation and I got a phone call from Beth,
Yeah,
and she said,
Who's
Kevin,
Beth McGeehan.
Beth McGeehan. Yeah, she was our lighting director or technical assistant or whatever the job title was. It's like, the floor's not here. The Marley for the stage. I'm like, really? Yeah, it's not coming. And so there was this whole saga of talking to the vendor and the manufacturer, saying, you know, we start school in a week. It needs to be here. And, you know, making Roscoe, the manufacturer, ship it via airplane from India so we could have classes.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
The move was a big deal.
It was a big deal. Yeah, that was a monster. Packing up 4730 North Sheridan and decommissioning a theater and taking whatever we could take and bring it down here and open a new space.
How
Yeah,
long did you work in the old space? How long were you
not that long. About a year and a half or 2 years.
So when you came
Yeah.
in, did you know there was a new theater in the works?
There was the promise of that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then it took a little longer.
Yeah.
But we made it,
Mm-hmm.
and look at this place.
Yeah.
Wow. Speaking of stuff not showing up, Cloudgate, Auditorium Theater, 2 sold-out performances.
Oh, that's right.
Song of the Wanderers.
Oh, right.
Lynn's one of his several masterworks. The whole thing revolves around about 3 tons of rice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A bunch of it streams down over a dancer's head who's meditating like this, motionless, through about, 70, 75
Mhm.
minutes. And then all kinds of other stuff going on. So I'm hanging out in a technical rehearsal at the Auditorium Theater with Lynn and a couple other people. And we get a call and say, the rice is held up in Minneapolis. It's on a train, and this was in February, and it was probably wicked cold up there because it was wicked cold here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like trains can't move. And so we've got 2 tons of rice sitting on the siding. And this was about 5 o'clock on a Thursday evening before we were supposed to open on Friday. So, okay. Someone get in a truck and drive to Minneapolis. Find that rice. It's like, Lynn, could we just buy some rice? No. No. This is very special rice.
Special rice, it is.
Yeah, and it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of different kinds of rice.
Yeah.
You don't know
Yeah.
that. But this rice was not pointed on the ends.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't like
Dig into
spike into
Yeah.
some guy's head
Yeah.
for an hour and a half.
Uh-huh.
Or lodge into someone's foot.
Right.
So no, it had to be the right rice. And it was also dyed.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, send a truck up to Minneapolis, find that rice, turn around, drive all night, get that rice down here. So we get that team deployed. Then it's like, ding, oh, the costumes are on the train too.
Oh no.
Okay, so there are 25 dancers. They have no costumes, they have no rice. We've got about 2,000 people in there for 2 nights. What are we gonna do? So I say, and I knew the piece. The costumes weren't that
Yeah.
I was going to say important, but they're very important. But they weren't complex. It wasn't like Louis the 14th with wigs, and I mean they were basically sarongs, and the men would wear them around their waist. Everyone in the cast had their undergarments, so that was no problem. The women would tie their sarongs over their tops, and so it's like, all right, let's get some fabric. Let's get some fabric, and we'll find some stitchers. And our most generous sponsor and benefactor for that engagement said, okay, I've got some connections at the Joffrey. Let me make a call. I bet we can get someone from their costume studio to do this. It's like, yeah, but it's like 8 o'clock at night by now. Where in the world are we going to get the fabric? So I call my lovely wife, Heather. I say, honey, where can we get some fabric?
Right now.
It's like, what kind of fabric do you need? It's like, try Vogue.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a Vogue somewhere on Roosevelt. They're closed. Okay, there's a Vogue fabric up in Evanston. How long are you guys going to be open? 9 o'clock. All right. Let's go. And then Lynn is like, oh, and by the way, I love that man, but it's like the fabric needs to be dyed. I was like, no problem. I'm sure the Joffrey has some dye.
Right.
No, Phil. It must be a dye made from a special tea. Just kill me.
Yeah.
All right, Lynn, you go off with Fred up to Evanston, get the fabric, bring it down to the Joffrey tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. They'll start stitching and hemming. Hopefully the truck will get up to Minneapolis and bring the rice back. If that doesn't happen, we're basically screwed.
Yeah.
And I'll go try to find some of this tea.
Yeah.
It all worked out fine. The train started moving. It got down here. The truck came back from Minneapolis empty because the train moved, but they were there to pick it up. We got all the rice. We made a whole nother set of costumes.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
And the dancers were in there and they're like, this is okay, but it's not my costume. So, okay, everyone's getting ready. They're trying to do a quick run through with their new costumes. It's about 7:15. All right, I'll wrap this up. Anyway, they're all feeling happy. About 7:25, here comes someone with the costumes. Oh, somehow we'd gotten the rice already. I don't know. It's all a blur.
Yeah.
And it was rigged so it would all fall down in this big cascade. And we held the curtain for 15 or 20 minutes so the dancers could get into their real costumes.
Oh my God.
That was, for me, in 17 great years, probably the most anxiety-producing
Yeah.
moment. Scary, anxiety-producing, whatever. But, and I'm just thinking in my head for my, executive director position, okay, how are we going to inform 2,000 people that the show's not going on tonight?
Right.
Can you come back next year?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it all came off, man. I mean, anyway.
Yep.
This may be a related note, but if we were going to make a blooper reel, would you have any contributions?
I think just about everything we've said. Not a blooper reel. I don't know. Ask Jane. I bet she's got some stuff.
I remember
some miscues.
Yeah.
Some like, oops, sorry, let's do that over. There's got to be a lot of that.
Not so much.
Maybe it gets called
That's what
out.
rehearsals are for.
Uh-huh.
But I remember when we first had our work light panels put in, they didn't have covers on them, and we were presenting David Gordon, and I can't remember. It wasn't Dancing Henry V. It was before that, and we had programmed a lighting cue in one of the work light buttons, and their lighting director, their stage manager sat on one of the speakers backstage and leaned up against it, and all of a sudden all these lights came on during a performance that weren't part of the light cue. Like,
David should roll with that.
that's bright. He did. He did. And then, I reached over, went, boom, turned it off. And then the light was restored to what it was supposed to be for the show. And David came up to me afterwards at the end of the run and said, next time I'm back, I hope to see covers on those switches. It's like, yes, sir, you will.
Wow.
Yeah, that was something.
This is not a blooper, but something that has stayed with me from last season. When Doug Verone was here, one of his dancers kind of struck up a conversation with a homeless woman on a bus, and they talked for like 2 hours or something, and the dancer invited the woman to performance to come see her and put her on the comp list. And then when she arrived, there was some conflict at the box office and some confusion, and she accused MC of racism. And so she was explaining this to me, and a patron pulled me aside and was like, "He didn't do anything." But she enjoyed the performance, and MC had been kind of he was not happy with the encounter. And then when I explained what had happened and why she was there, everything just immediately reversed. And he sent out some snacks, and she was like, "These are my favorite snacks in the world." And it was just
Cool.
it was a really memorable encounter. But I also loved the random audience member being like, "He was fine."
Yeah.
There have been so many great people and continue to be. Christina Hyman,
Oh, God, Chrissy. Oh, yeah.
box office manager.
Yep.
Larry Russo, who's still here. Ted. the most generous, giving person in the world. Lydia Heimbaum,
Yeah.
former marketing person. I mean, it's
Irish.
McCusker.
Yeah. Yeah. Stage manager, assistant, technical assistant, assistant technical director. Yeah.
Heather Hardley,
Mhm.
marketing director for a while. And some really satisfying things like Vershawn Sanders,
Oh, yeah.
a student. I think, if I'm not mistaken, our first MBA.
First BFA.
BFA.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Mhm.
MBA. That's
Yeah.
a different thing.
That'd be great.
Yeah, right.
Let me do some accounting.
Right, yeah.
No, our first BFA worked as a work aide, became.
She was the accounts manager.
She
for
became
the-
Yeah, she
the
was, that's
accounts
right.
manager,
Yeah.
the person who would write checks and
Mhm.
give them to me or someone else to sign. Was a box office manager for a while.
Yeah.
And now she's got a really interesting company happening here.
Went off and got her master's. And,
She got her master's at NYU, came
Mhm.
back.
Mhm.
I mean, that is so great. And I think about some of the other students who sort of intersected with the presenting series. You probably know more of them than I do, Jill, but Christina Tadeo, Sarah Fry, these are in my early memory.
Sarah Ziegler, who
Oh.
was an academic work aide, and now she's in Vershawn's company.
Yeah,
That's
that's
right.
Mhm.
So, and I know Sarah has a thriving arts administrative career as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's, I don't know, there's some satisfaction there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Pete, I'd be interested to hear what it was like for you to bring Bear back into this space.
Oh gosh. Wow, good memory.
I mean, this is a conversation, right?
Yeah. No, I mean that was so you don't know. anything about
27
this.
maybe?
It was 2006, fall of
6.
2006.
Okay.
It was I just finished 1 year of teaching here, and the following fall, I brought my MFA thesis concert here, which was around HIV/AIDS, and was supported by a very generous grant from the provost. It has some very explicit sexual content delivered by me in monologue form, which I'm doing for all my students, which was just like slightly horrendous. I mean, it was cool. Like the students actually responded really well. I think my first year of teaching was really gratifying in some ways, but also I was teaching a lot of history and theory classes, and I think the students were like, "Oh, he's like the theory guy. They didn't know me as a practicing artist." So that performance changed that a lot. I had a different level of like buy-in in my teaching, and I was able to actually use senior Olivia Bustos was performed in the work, so that was really cool. Yeah. No, it really changed my relationship with the students in terms of my teaching and my effectiveness as a teacher. And I think it was also a really interesting experiment in terms of like, how do you bring your whole self to your work as an educator, and how do you marry your interests in artistry, activism, and education together? I thought that in that way it was really successful, and I was really grateful for the opportunity to do it.
I mean, this is maybe a selfish question, but I would love to hear each of you talk about your first year with the Dance Center or with Columbia.
Oh wow.
Okay. Who's going to start that one?
I'll start it.
Can always count on Kelly.
Yeah, right.
And what's different now?
What's different now? So I started part-time as videographer. So I was videotaping the shows and working on the crew and hanging lights and doing all that because I've always liked doing that. So I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about when I was the boss and my first year as technical director. I was in way over my head.
When was that, Kevin?
That was 1996.
Okay.
And Stephen Petronio, I believe, was one of our first companies. And we were doing a lot of outside events at the same at that time as outreach. And so we were all over the place and doing Dance Africa.
Right.
And I remember just trying, and there was no internet. You know, I didn't have a lot of contacts in the city.
It's been really young too.
Thank you.
Still young.
I will take that as a compliment. And so, you know, getting things, you know, finding vendors and finding odd things required going through the phone book, you know, and calling people. Hey, where can I find this? Yeah, the Yellow Pages was my friend. So that's one thing that's really different. We were also in a very different space with different limitations. And I wasn't quite as self-assured as I am now. And I remember with the Marley, there was a slight gap between the Marley panels.
That's not acceptable.
No, well, it wasn't for this company. And one of the dancers split a toe.
Oh.
You know, and I've done that as, you know, a barefoot performer at one time. I have split toes, and it's like, yeah, that hurts.
Yeah.
And the company manager went off on me, and then brought Shirley in, and we had a powwow and this and that, and you know, everybody's saying, well, shouldn't you do it this way or shouldn't you do it this way, and how to lay the dance floor. And so I came in at 7:00 the next morning and retaped the Marley, you know, basically moved all of the Marley a quarter of an inch, and retaped it, and you know, had a very long day, but that was, you know, needed to be done.
Let me check this, Marley.
Yeah. Don't look at the tape.
I think it's okay.
No, it actually needs work. So, you know, and I was new at lighting student shows and new with the computer board. And so I was, you know, inexperienced at the time. Jump ahead 23 years and I got it. Yeah. Or if I don't have it, I can figure it out or find somebody to figure it out.
You got it.
Yeah. Thank you. So that's the big difference, you know, and knowing, you know, when I can say to a company, you need to adjust, you know, for us.
Yeah, yeah.
They're, and knowing that, knowing the artist's point of view as well, and saying, you know, I am not saying this just because, you know, you're blocking seats. I understand that the proximity between the dancers and the musicians is important, but a couple of extra feet won't hurt, as opposed to, you know, when companies come in, especially from New York, they look at the stage and go, wow, this stage is really big. And I jokingly say, just take bigger steps. You know, so that's different. Who's next?
What's the question?
First year on the job.
First, yeah.
I'll back up a little bit to first year preceding the job, or first 6 months or so. I was living in Vermont, in the Garden of Eden, And I was getting restless there, and so I saw this thing about coming and being the executive director of the dance center. So I thought, okay, why not? I was presenting live art and film and things like that in Vermont. So I came in here, and for some reason someone paid attention, and I was invited for a first interview, and there was a performance going on that weekend, you know, after I'd had dinner with the president at the time, John Duff. There was a performance going on at the Merle Ruskin,
Merle Ruskin, yeah.
at the Roussettes.
Okay.
Remember that one? Their big pile of dirt.
No, that was the weekend I got married.
Oh yeah. Okay. And so the technical director is not around.
Right.
The marketing director wasn't around. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, we'll see. And I went in there, and I was, you know, all looking nice and everything, and I had a suit and a tie on, which I do about 3 times a year. And I'm sitting there in the aisle reading my program, and someone taps me on the shoulder. It's like, no one knows me here. I should be anonymous.
Right.
And Shirley,
Mm-hmm.
she said, "Are you Phil?" And I said, "Yes, I'm Phil Reynolds. And you are, I think, Shirley Mordine." Shake hands, we chat a little while. Lights dim. She says, "You know, I think I could like you." That gave me so much confidence going into the gauntlet
Yeah.
of interviews. And then they said, "Okay, fine, we think you could be a candidate to come back the next time." And so I did a few weeks later. And this time there was a performance at the Sheridan Road space with Mad Shack.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I went in there, and in those days, I don't know if it's still the same because I don't get up there that much, but Uptown was pretty funky.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm by myself again, feeling really nervous. I didn't have the suit on this time. I probably had my, you know, turtleneck or something. And I'm walking into the theater, and there's this poor, pathetic person face down on the pavement. And no one is paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
They're just walking by. I'm like, what can I do? So I pull out a $5 bill and kind of put it in his hand and step over him and go into the theater. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is a lot different than Vermont.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then they hired me, and I came here. A couple weeks later, I get this note from the dance center's marketing director saying, "Can you please email me your resume or bio, because someone named Louis Lazar is interested in what's going on at the Reader." Panic. I had never in my life sent an email. Call me stupid, but you know, it's 1997.
Yeah.
It's like, how
Sure.
Yeah.
the fuck am I going to do this and not screw this up? I should probably just call them and saying, "Sorry, I can't."
I'll fax it to you. Yeah.
Well, that's what I said, Kevin.
Yeah.
Can I fax it? I have a fax machine.
Right.
And so she said, "Yes, of course." And so then I got here, and the very first day, or do you want to talk? I'm just jabbering on. Shut me up. It was the day like after New Year's. I moved my family here over Christmas. We settled in like January 2nd or 3rd of 1999. There was an enormous blizzard, like 2.5 feet of snow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, I got to get to work. This is my first day. This is my first day of work. I don't know how to email. You know, it's like But I'm getting into that office. So I'm going, I get to the train station because we moved into this place on Cornelia between Halsted and Broadway. I get to the Red Line. It's just like coming down like crazy. I don't know what's going on. I know I'm supposed to head north. I think I have this ticket that might help me get there. Just as I'm coming up the stairs, the train pulls out.
Yeah.
Do you remember that Western movie, Shane? Shane.
I do.
Shane, it was a great Western. Shane comes in, he cleans up all the bad guys in the town and makes everybody's family happy, and then rides off into the sunset at the end of the movie. And this little boy is like, Shane, come back, come back. And I'm like, train, come back. And then who walks up? Larry Russo.
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
No funny.
He said, wait a second, you're the new guy at the dance center, aren't you? I said, yeah, I think so. I said, okay, well, look, there's not going to be a train for a while. Let's just start walking up there. He's like, okay, man, I'll follow you, which I've done over and over again. We're walking through and someone drives by and it's like, hey, Larry. And it was one of our faculty people.
Oh.
I can't remember who right now.
No.
And she said, hey, come on, hop in. We'll give you a lift. And I'm like, thinking, there are really classes going on today? And it's like, yep.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
So-
that's right.
So
were
we
on that
got up
schedule.
there. And then the next year, the next year was just listening and learning. Implementing what was in place with the presenting series and beginning to shape my first year. And then Bonnie Brooks came into play, and we developed a relationship over, I don't know, 15 years or so, of sort of co-curation, which was actually very, very positive. At times we would have different ideas, but then we would talk about that. It's like, well, why this and why not that? Because basically we had, 8 or 10 choices to make in any given year. And there was so much great work out there. So what do you do with that? And you also have to sort of step back and say, wow, that's a tremendous responsibility. It's a privilege too. But Bonnie and I would talk about those, and she'd say, I don't think that's right. And I'd say, well, I don't think what you're proposing is right. And we would sometimes duke it out. But we would come to consensus. And so that produced dance center seasons for 15 years. And it's darn great, and it continues to be so.
Do you
Darn
think-
great.
Was Shirley responsible for hiring you, do you think? Do you think she was the main decider?
Shirley was on sabbatical at the time. I think it was Richard Woodbury who was acting chair.
It would have been, yeah.
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 And there was a wonderful, wonderful woman named Stephanie Bierling.
Oh, yeah.
Steph was pretty involved then. I think Shirley absolutely gave her endorsement. I don't know who hired me. I know who let me go. You can cut that.
Right.
I think I could like you. Line.
Yeah,
That's
that is
really good.
Yeah, Shirley was in exit mode. She was on sabbatical. For a bunch of different reasons.
Are there other stories from the old building? As somebody who didn't get to experience that space, I'm curious about it. And or the move.
There was some pretty wild stuff that went on, at least that I know of firsthand, up and on North Sheridan. We had dancers that actually flew in the space. And to make that happen, because of the way the grid was built, somehow they found the money to drill into the concrete beams and I-beams and put these giant U-clamps on that could basically support a car so that these dancers could fly. And the grid was only 16 feet, so it's 2 feet lower than what we have here. And I'm sure right now there are still these giant U-clamps with this giant O-ring on it. And yeah, that was pretty incredible. That was a lot of effort. Yay for underwriters. I don't know who paid for that, but that was a job. What else went on up there?
I think the best Thai food restaurant in North America.
Both of them. There
Yeah.
were two.
Mhm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
One was better than the other, from my opinion.
Yes, but they were both really good.
And both right there?
Yeah.
Oh, like a block away.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Siam Thai and noodle or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
They could make a pod keema like there's no tomorrow.
Uh-huh. Served with the red hot sauce and a small sliver of raw cabbage.
Yep.
And it's just like, this is awesome. Raw cabbage, who would have thought? Yeah.
It's just so different down here now. When I was coming down here this afternoon, I'm thinking about, where am I going to park? And when we came into this joint in 2000,
Mhm.
there was really not much around here.
No.
There were those townhouses where Richard Daly and
Mhm.
Maggie lived. I
Mhm.
don't know if they still do. But that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
And in fact, there were just these vacant lots.
Oh, yeah.
Some days
everywhere.
I would go over and just, pluck some wildflowers that were
Mhm.
growing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wasn't like a meadow.
No.
I'm not saying that this
yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
it's like, but there's something with a little color and freshness, and I just
Yeah.
pick them and put them in my
Mhm.
in a little container of water or something, and
You could park for $3 a day.
you could park wherever you want.
Yeah, true.
I would just
yeah.
go and park and like roll over some wildflowers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But what's happened in this neighborhood is nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's
Yeah.
good.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's what happens. It's development. I don't know.
Wish we had a good Thai food restaurant down here.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's well, I guess nostalgia's not what it used to be.
But these chairs we're sitting on were from the old space.
Really?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, they
When-
wanted to get rid of them.
They did, and we all said no. You can't. Yeah. The provost at the time, Bert Gall, said you don't need those. It's like, no, Bert, we're taking those. and we use them all the time. They're fewer and fewer in number.
They're holding up pretty well.
They're holding up pretty well.
Good.
And they also show up at other places. There's a couple at Links Hall, and I think there's a couple at Hamlin. It's, the influence is just kind of spread. It's pretty cool.
Can anybody talk about the relationship with Columbia?
Sorry, Sue.
Relationship with Columbia.
Oh,
With the
At
the
large.
the university, yeah, administration.
Well, I can, but I've talked a lot.
well, I mean, I'll talk about this. I think that when I came in as chair, I think there was, I think a prevailing notion that the college didn't really get the dance center, or that the college didn't support the dance center in the way that it could. And that is certainly one. There are certainly numerous opportunities you can say to, look at cuts that were made or look at things that have happened and say that the college doesn't get it. I actually choose to paint the narrative really differently, though, because I see all sorts of ways that the college does support the work of the Dance Center, and I think the administration has provided a lot of fiscal support, in-kind support, salary support, benefit support. I mean, there's a lot of support that we get as a result of being aligned with its institution, and it allows us to do things that we couldn't be if we were a standalone not-for-profit. Absolutely. So that's at a kind of like nuts and bolts administrative level. I think I'm so interested in the experiment that's going on here year after year, which is what happens when you bring an educational institution next to a really, high-profile presenting season, and really try to marry them, as opposed to every other institution of higher education that I know, which is that the live arts performance series is a vehicle for fundraising and development, as opposed to something that's integral to the academic departments. And I think that experiment here is, I think it's going rather well, right? Like, I think the students get a lot from it. I think many times artists come in and are like really enthused, not only about, the beautiful space and the great staff and the way that we support them, but also about their teaching residency while they're here.
Yes.
They're like, the students are really interesting, or like, that we had this great conversation that really made me think about this piece differently, or and the students will say that the performances are certainly a highlight of the residency, but that also oftentimes the guest classes are just as important to their experience of the success of the residency. So I think that it's a really interesting and useful relationship, and I think I definitely think that it's beneficial and reciprocal in multiple directions.
I think that's beautifully stated, Pete. Certainly, the support that the college provides for the presenting season makes it possible. Let's just be real about that.
Totally.
And so what we had to do over the years, and I'm sure you continue to, is to demonstrate that what happens on this stage with professional companies from around the United States and around the world actually impacts on student learning and faculty development. And it does, as you have stated. So I think, it wouldn't be around without Columbia College Chicago. Period.
That's right. Absolutely.
They garner benefits out of it for sure, in terms of attention and being one of the 4 or 5 or 8 important dance presenting venues in the United States. And there aren't that many of them left, especially if you get outside of about a 30-mile radius of New York.
Sure.
And we're here. You all are here. But the idea, and just, there's so many times, and it's not just seeing the companies perform and what that gives the students in terms of influencing their thoughts, or even having a master class with someone from Trisha Brown's company, or a Cunningham dancer, or a Petronio dancer, or Stephen himself. Having some of those dancers on the floor because they want to, that's what they do. They're pros. They take class every day. Whoa, I see some of the students going like, wow, this is what I need to aspire towards. Or hearing a conversation out here in the lobby with someone from Joe's company, or talking with Robert Moses, or any one of 200, and just saying like, well, how do I audition? How did you get to be in this company? And it's quite wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's changed over time. I was just thinking internally in the college with other departments. The college has been really, as much as I complain about not having the budget, I mean, look at the room we're in. It's taken a lot of time and a lot of effort, but we are up to date with a lot of the modern technology for production, and being able to then talk to our other departments, music, theater. Hey, can we borrow this? Or hey, you got a line on this? When we were up on Sheridan, we were so far away that we learned to survive on our own.
Yeah.
And that stuck with us for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then as things got tighter and as everybody in the college started to get out of their own department because we had to, we've come to make some pretty good relationships within the college, and it's easy to reach out and say, hey, I need to borrow an amp. You got an amp I can borrow? Or somebody will call me and say, I need a platform. So, as everything has developed, as we continue on in our mission, we're the college itself is growing around everything, which I have to stop and think about when it's like, oh, I have to go pick up an amp. Well, it's 2 blocks north, and I don't need a car.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's Friday. Yeah.
Can I say one other thing on that? I just feel like there's a relationship that the dance presenting season has consistently had around prioritizing diversity, equity, inclusion. That has been mirrored in the academic department, and that is over time, I think, caught on. So I think the dance presenting season and the department in some ways have been leaders in terms of taking the college up into taking issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, particularly anti-racism, really seriously. And I want to shout out to Onye Azuzu, who really brought a lot of those changes into the curriculum. And I think in some ways the college is being seen more and more as doing innovative things in terms of its ongoing relationship with the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond, and their Undoing Racism trainings for full-time faculty. That I think that's a really harmonious alignment that I think is really great and really reflects not just the city that we're in, but also the students we serve.
Yeah, when I talk to colleagues in other places, I was talking to somebody last week who was like, oh yeah, the dance faculty are really up in arms about the presenting people, and they were like, is that the case where you are? And I was like, well, like my right side and my left side would never like really be fighting each other,
Right.
like Jill and Margie and I, like we, it's a really different way of working, and I think one that has a lot of advantages and a lot of problems that we're able to circumvent by being within the department here.
Absolutely.
Something you said a moment ago, Pete, about we talked a little bit about the flow of information and influence from artists to students, and in some cases students back to artists. I also would like to just refer to a couple conversations, quite a few, that I've had with artists who have come in and out after we've done our post-residency evaluations, and saying how meaningful it was for them to get into an off-campus community setting, which has always been a very, very high priority.
That's right.
For the artists presented. It's like, wow, you said you wanted me to go into this setting in a community center or a school, or that you were going to put together some sort of panel. And I've never really done that before. And so it's making me a little nervous. But if you're cool with it, Phil, I trust you. And then they would go into it and it would be great. And then I get a note and say, like, I have so much more information now. This is something I can take with me to other residencies around the country, because that's, you know, that's kind of what's floating the boat in the philanthropic world. And that was, you know, it's a priority here, is to not only think about what happens on this stage for that audience, what happens in the studios for the students, and on this stage with the students in that audience, but also what happens off campus with these artists. And I trust and hope that's continuing, because it really feeds the artists in a lot of different ways. And, you know, sometimes Bonnie or I would be negotiating with a company, and it's like, look, if you want, you know, you can come in here for a week. First of all, most of them think a week.
Yeah.
That sounds like vacation.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like
a long
we're
residency.
not loading in, performing, loading out, and getting on a plane.
Right.
So what do we do during that week? Well, you're going to teach 4 or 5 classes with our students. You're going to go into this different place or that different place, and we can have a long conversation about what those best intersections are, given your experience base. Do you want that or not? It's like, no, we just want to perform. Oh, we do not teach.
Yeah.
Well, then you do not come here.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like, so that's a piece of it. It's really quite remarkable.
Maybe like a closing round or closing thoughts, something that you've been sitting with that hasn't felt right for any particular question, but you want to share before we leave. Janae has a question.
Can I ask it real quick? Yeah. What sort of traditions or practices or ideologies can you recognize today that that are lasting as having been instituted by Shirley? You touched on it a bit with the diversity element. Just wondering what else might still be in this space.
I think there's an assumption, and I think it's a good assumption, that the work on the dance presenting season stages and the work of the students are two things. One, that they're taken with an equal kind of seriousness, right? That they're like, that you expect rigor at every level, professionally and educationally. And at some level that you're chasing the experiment, right? That as the field is evolving, the work is evolving, and it's not static, and that something has to be at stake in terms of how we're considering the form and how we're considering the discipline. Yeah. I would say those are the two things that come to mind.
Is the question about the Shirley legacy, to paraphrase?
Yeah, I guess you could put it that way. Sure.
Well, and I think I'm going to paraphrase Irish. So Irish was the former. He was here 22 years, I think, and he was assistant technical director and toured with Shirley. And his take on Shirley was always, and I find this to be very true, that if you're going to put something on that stage, better damn well have something to say. And I honestly believe that is Shirley's point of view, and in talking with our students and seeing the work that they put on this stage, they have something to say. They're not just trying to do pretty dances.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, Shirley has a huge body of work. But I think her legacy lives in her students and her dancers.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of them that she has brought along and taught. And I remember a conversation I had with Shirley once about how should I state this? About the students that she was teaching here at the dance center and up on Sheridan Road for 25 years or something. And it was something to the effect of, well, we're not a conservatory. We can try to teach our students the best technique and give them everything they need to do, but they may not be able to kick their leg higher or twirl around as many times. So she said to me, as an educator, I'm more interested in what is happening above their shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an idea?
Mm-hmm.
Do you actually have an idea that you can then turn into a piece of theater or dance? I think that's what Shirley was about. That's my opinion. That's what Shirley is about.
Yeah.